rapid tests that could make the next Ebola outbreak less deadly. A new documentary sparks a conversation about racial inequality in the U.S.
Somebody call police, oh, police, oh.
And a countdown of the continent's hottest music videos. Africa 54 starts right now.
Good evening, I'm Esther Githo-Ewart. This is Africa 54. Amnesty International is accusing the Nigerian military of killing at least 150 activists and demonstrators who supported the secession of Biafra. In a new report, Amnesty says the military fired live ammunition to disperse peaceful protests by the group called Indigenous People of Biafra between August 2015 and August 2016. The Nigerian military and police have denied the allegations. Amnesty says the report is based on interviews with more than 190 people, 87 videos, and more than 120 photographs during that period. It says police used abusive and excessive force to disrupt gatherings. This is the latest in a string of charges against Amnesty leveled against Nigeria's military in the last year. An army spokesperson says the allegations are aimed at tarnishing the reputation of Nigeria's security forces. Zimbabwe's President Robert Mugabe is printing new currency pegged to the US dollar, and it is expected to be introduced next week. The government says the new currency will replace the US dollar at a 1-to-1 exchange rate. The Reserve Bank says the move is aimed at addressing Zimbabwe's chronic cash crunch, which it blames on low exports. But critics say it is also meant to keep Mugabe in power. Zimbabwe had been using a multi-currency system dominated by US dollars since its own currency collapsed in 2009. At the time, government figures showed inflation had hit 231 million%. The new plan has already seen a run on the banks as Zimbabweans empty their accounts of hard currency. When Ebola swept through Liberia, Guinea, and Sierra Leone, thousands succumbed to the virus. Countries with already poor healthcare systems struggled to contain the crisis. VOA's Maria Madiallo reports on rapid tests that could make the next outbreak less deadly.
The 2014 Ebola outbreak in West Africa was the largest and most complex since the virus was discovered in 1976. The hardest hit countries, Sierra Leone, Liberia, and Guinea, faced crippling hurdles in fighting its spread, including no quick way to diagnose patients.
It would take 2 or 3, sometimes 4 days to get results back. In the meantime, you had malaria patients in with Ebola patients, and if you didn't have Ebola before, you're likely to have Ebola after.
Images of deserted villages. This little girl found alone in a house with her sister dying of Ebola and a husband watching his dead wife being carried away by undertakers are stark reminders of what the region went through. As the number of Ebola cases was multiplying in some parts of West Africa, thousands of miles away right here in Utah, a rapid testing kit which has been in the works for years was ready to go. Cynthia Phillips helped develop the Ebola testing kit for BioFire Defense.
The FilmArray kit is both an instrument that is a diagnostic and a little pouch that's disposable and room temperature stable that you put a human sample in and some water, and then you put it into the instrument and it gives you back results on a whole series of tests or pathogens that you might have in that sample.
It gave us the ability to test patients in 1 hour.
Americans anxiously watched the first Ebola patient arrive on U.S. soil. Dr. Kent Brantley, who had been working in Liberia, was brought to Emory University Hospital in Atlanta. Eileen Bird is Emory's clinical microbiology director and recalls those first days.
I will have to admit, the first time I opened that first tube of blood, knowing what was in there and what it was doing to the patient down the hall was a little daunting. And so it caused me pause, and then you take a deep breath and you do the work you need to do.
Emory Hospital treated 4 Ebola patients, and Dr. Bird says she's reassured FilmArray was among the tools on hand during the crisis. The instrument is one of 7 diagnostic tools the World Health Organization has approved for emergency use. Guinea's Health Ministry Inspector General also is grateful.
Before, we had to transport samples to Dakar, Senegal, or Lyon in France, but today, thanks to our partners in France, the CDC in the US, and many others, we are able to make rapid diagnosis for Ebola.
More than 11,000 people died before the West Africa Ebola epidemic was contained. Health experts hope these new rapid testing tools can drastically lower deaths in future outbreaks. Mariama Diallo for VOA News, Salt Lake City, Utah.
To Iran now, where at least 31 people have been killed in a train crash and about 80 others injured. The accident happened on the main line between the capital Tehran and the city of Mashhad. A moving passenger train collided with an express train that had stopped at a station because of mechanical problems. Some derailed carriages caught fire, and rescue teams were trying to control the blaze. Iran's railway network has aged badly under international economic sanctions imposed over the country's disputed nuclear program. Israeli firefighters have reined in a blaze that raged across the city of Haifa for 4 days, but now they are battling more than a dozen other fires around the country. The more than 60,000 people who were evacuated are now going back to their charred homes to assess the damage. Firefighters remain on alert for fear the fire could be reignited because of dry, windy weather. There were no deaths or serious injuries reported, but dozens of people have been hospitalized for smoke inhalation. Police say 12 people have been arrested across the country on suspicion of arson. The latest rush of fires is the worst since 2010, when Israel suffered the single deadliest wildfire in its history. U.S. President-elect Donald Trump's rhetoric during the presidential campaign raised concerns that if he won, he would tilt toward improving relations with Russia at Ukraine's expense and rethink the nation's involvement in the NATO alliance. However, in recent telephone conversations with Ukrainian President Petro Poroshenko and NATO Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg, Trump expressed interest and support for both. Ukraine's President Petro Poroshenko said Thursday that U.S. President-elect Trump raised the questions of Russian aggression of the illegal annexation of Crimea in a recent telephone conversation. Speaking at a joint news conference in Brussels with European Council President Donald Tusk and European Commission President Jean-Claude Juncker, Poroshenko said he had an opportunity to give Trump very detailed information about the latest situation in eastern Ukraine and in Crimea.
During the last couple of days or week, both me and President Tusk has an opportunity to speak with the President-elect Donald Trump. By the way, we call each other before this phone conversation, and I can confirm you that the question of the Russian aggression, illegal annexation of the Crimea, was raised by President-elect Trump in my phone conversation. I hate the idea to disclose the first phone conversation among the President of Ukraine and President-elect, but I have an opportunity give him very detailed information about the last situation on the east of my country and in Crimea.
The Ukrainian president also said his country has strong bipartisan support in the United States, in Congress, among the United States politicians, both Republicans and Democrats, and we don't expect any significant changes in this bipartisan support. Meanwhile, NATO Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg said Thursday in remarks at Oxford University in England that Trump had expressed strong support for the Western military alliance during a phone conversation the two had last week.
The United States will continue to be committed to NATO, not only because President-elect Donald Trump stated clearly that he supports the NATO and and the obligations we all have made in being members of the alliance. But I also strongly believe it because strong NATO is not only good for Europe, it's obviously good for us because that is, cornerstone of our security, but it's also good for the United States.
During the presidential campaign, Trump also said that the U.S. was paying far too much of the bill for the alliance and even said that NATO may be obsolete. We want to know what you think about Africa 54 and the stories we cover. Join the conversation on Facebook. The address is Africa 54 and check out our headlines 24/7 on voaafrica.com. Coming up, high school students in Washington, D.C. ponder racism after seeing a documentary. Stay with us.
This is BizBeat.
Traffic and parking tickets can cost a lot of money. Getting an attorney to fight them, well, not worth it until now, thanks to robots. Introducing Do Not Pay, one of the world's first robot attorneys.
Created this almost as a side project, but then 9 months later, millions of dollars worth of tickets were appealed, and over 180,000 tickets were successfully overturned.
Joshua Browder, founder of Do Not Pay, says the robot lawyer, more like a website chatbot, collects details, puts them in a legally sound appeal, which can be sent directly to the local authorities.
For example, it will ask you, was the parking bay too small, or was it hard to understand the signs?
Do Not Pay has expanded to addressing flight delays and property disputes, but Browder, a student at Stanford University, says someday perhaps he'll have the world's largest robot firm. For VOA's BizBeat, I'm Philip Alexio.
A look at the stock market shows the Standard & Poor's 500 and the Dow Jones Industrial Average opened trade at new all-time highs as the markets remain on a run. Jill Malandrino, business correspondent in New York, has all the details.
Good afternoon from the NASDAQ market site. I'm Jill Malandrino, and if we take a look at the board here, we can see the S&P 500, the Dow Jones. We hit another all-time high at the open. NASDAQ just a touch behind. The Russell 2000 also hit another all-time high. It is up 14 consecutive trading sessions, and all of this is as the Trump rally train continues to chug along. We're getting participation from those small cap names that are going to do better in a fiscal stimulus type of environment. Energy is lagging a bit today. This is in front of the big OPEC meeting in Vienna on November 30th. Even though there's expectation of production cuts or freezes, we are producing at all-time record highs, and that supply glut remains. It also remains to be seen if OPEC countries will actually cooperate with any agreements that are met. So it's really what we're going to be looking at next week, in addition to a slew of economic data. The earnings season continues to wind down, and of course, analysts will be looking to see how well American retailers performed on the Black Friday holiday weekend. As a reminder, markets in the U.S. close at 1 o'clock Eastern today in celebration of the Thanksgiving holiday weekend. From the NASDAQ market site in Times Square, I'm Jill Malandrino, and this is Africa 54.
Now, the recent interracial police shootings across the United States and the protests that followed have reopened old wounds and highlighted racial inequities in American society. Now, a documentary movie targeting young people attempts to open a dialogue on the issues surrounding this most sensitive of areas in American culture. VOA's Jeff Custer spoke with one of the film's creators as well as students who have seen the film.
Race has always been there. People need to see that instead of ignoring it and trying to be like, there's no segregation, there's no slavery. It's still here though, and people need to know.
The film, I'm Not Racist, Am I?, follows 12 New York City high school students over 9 months as they participate in exercises and sometimes difficult discussions that directly address the bias they deal with on a daily basis.
One kid said to me that, like, oh, I thought all Asians are supposed to be smart, like, what's wrong with you?
Not in theaters. The film is being shown exclusively to groups of young people and their parents. The film's director, Catherine Wigginton Green, says parents tend to find the film especially challenging.
They're really seeing that, kids maybe are going to dances or have friends with kids who are different race, and so they think, oh, they just have it all figured out. But what we realized in making the film is that kids don't, and they're not talking about it with their families.
The film has been screened repeatedly at Woodrow Wilson High School, a large multicultural public school in Washington, D.C. Principal Kimberly Martin says her students needed to see it.
From the first day that I was in this school, I could not believe that there are classrooms that are all African American or all Latino, and then there are classrooms that are all white.
Student James Sorokin agreed that a diverse school population does not necessarily translate to racial integration.
I think that, honestly, white kids hang out with white kids here and black kids hang out with black kids generally.
The film convinced student Amilcar Hudson that talking about racial issues like self-segregation is the best way to address them. But he acknowledges that talking about race remains a challenge.
I think that's the scariest part about it. I understand that there's a racial problem in this country, but the fact that people don't really feel comfortable talking about it means that we're almost subconsciously satisfied with it, and we're okay with this going on.
I understand it's so hard to hear that you are inherently racist because of something you can't control, but isn't it worse to hear that you are less than people inherently because of the color of your skin?
Students at Wilson High have formed a group called Common Ground to encourage interaction and discussion among students of different cultural backgrounds. Jeff Custer, VOA News, Washington.
Now, one of Malawi's fashion designers, Lily Alfonso, has shown her creations on catwalks in London, Paris and Amsterdam, and her clothes are now on sale in store racks in South Africa. The 35-year-old has been working to take her brand global while also striving to make a difference in her community. Reporter Lamek Masina has her story from Lilongwe.
Lily Alfonso gets right to work.
They want in 32, 34, 35, 36, 38. So I'll send you sizes right away after this.
Her passion for fashion started at the age of 6.
Every time I look at any cloth that is there for me, quickly I would want to change into what I like. Pretty much I'll cut a hand, I'll make it short, I'll be almost half naked most of the time, but I used to get in trouble.
She started her own tailoring business, and in 2010 she was named the best designer at a local fashion show here in the capital, Lilongwe.
So that motivated me more to say everything is possible. The person who invented the car, even the plane, he had to start with a dream. What would stop me?
And her business has grown.
We've expanded to Zimbabwe, South Africa. UK, America is individually, but South Africa, then we've gone into shops now.
She employs 30 people in her design studio, and her company sources some of the fabric it uses from disabled weavers in Malawi. Alfonso also offers free lessons to aspiring designers in Lilongwe.
Now I'm having this experience how to draw models, really like professional way, how models are supposed to be drawn, how prints are drawn, are printed, how you can study material, how you can determine a color on a person, like comparing with their complexion, if it could suit them or not.
But success isn't without its challenges. Alfonso says her main problem now is dealing with people copying her designs. But she's pushing ahead with her goal of becoming a competitive global brand in the next 5 years. Lamek Masina for VOA News, Lilongwe.
Inspiring. It's time now for a short break. Still to come on Africa 54, the continent's hottest music videos of the week. We'll be right back.
If you've just joined us, I'm Mariama Diallo, and here is a quick recap of today's headline. In the Gambia, crowds of supporters celebrate ahead of the arrival of President Yahya Jammeh as he campaigns a week ahead of elections. In Cameroon, 2 female bombers are thwarted as they try to stage a double suicide attack in the country's far north. In Madagascar, the 16th Francophonie Summit is due to open in the country. About 30 heads of state and government are expected to attend. Finally, the Makoko Floating School in Lagos, Nigeria, made it to the top 19 selected works at the recent Aga Khan Award for Architecture in Dubai. That's all for today. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.
Welcome back to Africa 54. Let's look at what's trending. It's the day after Thanksgiving, which means shopping madness in America. It's Black Friday and the start of the holiday shopping season. Some stores opened their doors on Thanksgiving Day to get a jump start on the competition. Macy's, Walmart, Target, and others are hoping the early start will become a new holiday trend. According to a survey by the National Retail Federation, around 137 million people are expected to shop during Thanksgiving weekend. That includes online and in-store shopping. New York is playing catch-up with Europe in launching its first Men's Fashion Week, a 4-day showcase for the U.S. Spring-Summer 2017 collections. Famous design houses Calvin Klein, Tommy Hilfiger, and Polo Ralph Lauren will show their collections along with several up and upcoming designers. And menswear market has traditionally been drowned out by the twice yearly fashion weeks in New York City, which feature hundreds of shows for women. But menswear has seen phenomenal growth in the last 6 years. The boom is expected to continue as millennials come of age. And finally, Indian weddings are traditionally lavish, but a recent ceremony made headlines around the world. The father of the bride is in hot water for spending millions of dollars on his daughter's wedding. Income tax officials raided properties of the Indian mining tycoon Gali Janardhan Reddy days after the ceremony. Roughly 3,000 bouncers were reportedly on site to protect the 50,000 guests attending the celebrations at the Bangalore Palace grounds. The tycoon has been widely criticized by the Indian media for the splurge. Many Indians are struggling to find cash just to get by after the government withdrew high-value notes from circulation in an attempt to fight tax evasion. And that's what's trending today. And welcome back. It's time for Music Makers Friday. And today we have Africa 54 top African music videos. Now here's the countdown with your hosts, Sanusi Diallo and Merod Woodney.
Welcome to VOA's African Hit. I'm Diallo Sanusi Gallis Jr. and I'm here with
Meron, presenting you the top 5 music videos from Africa
by African artists. Now introducing our number 5 music video.
It's an inspirational song by artist Wanda.
And thank you.
Count to me like 1, 2, 3, yeah. Call on me, I'll be right there. If you're feeling down and lonely, I will be your best friend. It is darkest night before the morning comes. If you're feeling hopeless, the sun is gonna shine. Don't you give up now.
So Meron, how do you say thank you in your language?
Amasaganalo.
Amasaganalo.
Yes.
All right.
How about you?
Njarama.
Njahama.
Njarama.
Njahama.
Okay, Njarama. Yeah. All right. Now the song that we're about to introduce, I know that song is very dear to you. What the song is about?
Yes, it's like my anthem all growing up. It's about unity, all one, all of our tribes. We have so many, which make us all together as one beautiful Ethiopia. The name of the artist is Brahanu Tazara, featuring Madingo Afwerk. The name of the song is Salam Yagarso. It means hi to everyone, all Ethiopians all around the world.
ሰላም ያገርሰው ያገርሰው እንደው ያገርሰው ሰላም ያገርሰው ያገርሰው እንደው ያገርሰው አንድ ማን ገበታ ያገርሰው አብሮ የሚቆርሰው
That was a nice song. I like it.
Love it.
It's always about unity, promoting unity. Africa is all about unity. The world is all about unity. Now, moving on number 3 music video. Let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
What gives an excessive energy to someone through dance?
Ginger.
How do you know it?
Research.
Okay. Now introducing our number 3 music video of the day. He's Fuse ODG in
Ginger.
Somebody call police, oh, yeah. This girl, she know I release, oh, no way. She showed up and told me freeze, oh, yeah. She told me, boy, don't resist, oh. She said, boy, ginger my ninja, ginger my ninja. She said, boy, ginger my ninja, ginger my ninja. She said, boy.
What are you doing, Meron?
Locolo.
What?
That's our.
How do you know about Locolo?
It's our favorite song on number 2.
Let's do the Locolo then. Locolo. Introducing our number 2 music video. It's straight from Guinea-Conakry. Udi Premier in Locolo.
Locolo, Toniata, Locolo, Tobina, Locolo. Hey, so, Locolo, t'as tout le contrôle d'écho. What do we do? What does Sida? What do we do? L'attaque internationale. What do we do? Hey, so, Keba, Simba, Keba. Locolo, Toniata, Locolo, Tobina, Locolo, Toniata, Locolo.
So Meron, you're wearing a t-shirt that says Kids First Africa. What's Kids First Africa?
Kids First Africa is the NGO that I started. It helps kids in Ethiopia and all over Africa with education and healthcare. How about you? I see you going home?
Yes, Going Home is a film documentary about the life of 2 artists who have not been back home for the past 15 years. For me, home is Guinea. How about you?
Mine is, of course, Ethiopia. Speaking of which we need to take pride in our home and our culture, which is our next song. Yakoranal is from East Africa, Ethiopia. The artist is Mahari de Gafau, and it's called Yakoranal. I take pride in being Ethiopian African. So before I leave, though, you gotta do our dance.
Yeah.
So just go into our dance.
Let's go.
Let's
I'm
go.
ready.
So you got pop, drop,
drop it,
shake.
My bones are cracking there.
ያኮራኛል ሁሌም ያኮራኛል ፍቅርሽ ያኮራኛል ታሪክ ዝናሽ ወገንና ባህል ሁሌም ያኮራኛል የትም ብሄድ የትም ፍቅርሽ እንደ ጥላ ይከተለኛል ጎንደር ያንቺ ዝና ያኮራኛል ገናኔ
Nice. That's our show for today. Be sure to watch Africa 54 on our website at voaafrica.com. For more news, tune in to VOA's evening radio show, Africa News Tonight at 1800 UTC, and in the mornings to Daybreak Africa between 0300 and 0600 UTC Monday through Friday. Thanks for watching, and good night from Washington.
barnaamijka qubanaha waxa aanu bilownay bishii Julaay ee sanadkii hore waxaana hadafku yahay inaanu dadka u gudbino barnaamijyo muuqaal ah annaga oo hiigsanayna TV
qubanaha VOA waxaan ku soo gudbinaa qubanayaal goosgoos ah oo xiiso badan oo ku saabsan arrimaha Soomaaliya Mareykanka iyo caalamkaba
haddaba qubanaha VOA da kala soco website-keena voasomali.com